place, with all due respect, like Iraq or Afghanistan, this is a relatively civilized, relatively European, I have to choose those words carefully too, city where you wouldn't expect that or hope that it's going to happen.
Wow. That was you choosing your words carefully? That was the careful version? So what were you going to say if you weren't choosing your words carefully? I just hope the next time this happens, it happens back in the Middle East where it belongs. Like, here's the thing, people. Here's the thing. Beyond the racism, right? Like, let's forget the racism. Oh, how I wish we could forget about the racism. You do realize that until very recently, fighting crazy wars was Europe's thing. That was Europe's entire thing. That's all of European history.
I'm sorry that I have to do this to you, Trevor, but it seems like you don't really have anybody that has any critical thoughts that goes against what you're saying ever. First off, there's a lot more to European history than just wars, but we're just going to put that racism to the side for a second. Let's just start off by saying that the most progressed human rights countries in the world are European and the United States of America. Let's start off with women. The most progressed, powerful women politicians in the world come from Europe and the Americas. The best countries in the world for racial equality are the Netherlands, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Canada. Do I need to tell you what continent those countries are in? And even in this situation, you want to talk about wars and invasions. Well, how come you never talk about the North Vietnamese taking over the South Vietnamese, or the North Koreans taking over the South Koreans? Or how about what Japan did to China? Or how about what China's trying to do to Guam? That's just Asia. How about the Middle East? We've seen invasions recently. We've seen a terrorist organization take over an entire country, the country of Afghanistan, just recently. How many conflicts have occurred in Africa? How many conflicts are still ongoing in Africa? How many countries have been overtaken by each other in Northern Africa? Should we talk about ancient times? Should we talk about ancient Egypt? Should we talk about the Ottoman Empire? Who should we talk about? This idea that it's just Europe that was obsessed with wars or invasions is ridiculous. You see, your obsession has nothing to do with Europe. It has to do with the fact that Europe has been the most successful when it comes to invasions. And this is not a bragging situation. This is just being blatantly honest. Do we need to talk about animal rights? I mean, we could talk about how in North Africa, endangered species are constantly killed so that their parts could be sold on the black market. We could talk about the Dog Meat Day festival in China. Europe and America are the most progressed when it comes to animal rights. The most civilized group of countries in the world are in Europe, and you could even include America into that. And I know you want to taint that because it's white people. But the truth of the matter is, that's just a fact. And there's nothing that you could do to change that. You could say that there's been invasions and wars. It doesn't matter, because still, when it comes to human rights in Europe and in America, most progressed in the world. So this entire idea that you are outraged because reporters were talking about how could this invasion happen in Europe, I mean, it kind of makes sense. How could it happen in Europe? The most civilized place in the world.